What's going on YouTube? Earth Power here.
CVH here.
And we have another video for you. This week, top 10 cards in Kaijudo. Ever.
Oh my god.
Ever. Every card that's come out starting from TVR all the way up through Vortex. However, there are no Vortex cards on this list. Spoilers.
That is true.
So.
Sorry, Vortex.
And there's some other sets that were left out. And
there's a
cards,
few sets that were left out.
Yeah.
A lot of sets that were left out.
And we've got some notable mentions at the end of this list, but we're going to start with 10 and work our way all the way down to the number one card that we think came out in this wonderful game of Kaijudo.
So we're looking at just effects that are powerful, just things that were played in a variety of decks. Things that not only were played in a variety of decks, but sometimes were just played in like one or two decks, but like totally defined a meta, or like for a prolonged period of time. Like not just decks that, like, oh, they won a couple KMCs in X season. Like these were just good for the entire time they were out. All of them. That's the thing they all share. Also, there is a trend that you might be able to notice if you're watching this video, and if you can guess the trend in the comments, you win the prize of not having to hear us talk about the trend at the end of the video, which we're also going to do.
Probably will, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just so
something else we mentioned.
Notable. Anyways, we'll just start off with number 10.
If I say number 10, you get to say number 1, because we're switching off. So I'll say number 10, because it's your channel. Number 10, we have the Arbiter, which is also currently, at the time of us making this video, number 1 on Corey's list on the KaijudoChannel.com of cards that are being played right now, KMCs and top 8 decks. Of course, this is like the new standard format. We're talking about things that are released in all time, so ours is slightly different. Arbiter being a powerful card, however, we think would still be impactful in the open meta, even though it haven't really opened tournaments, but it's a card that just sort of defines everything Light does, as far as it's a Shield Blast creature. The only Shield Blast creature on the list, by the way. So, like, in a lot of situations, actually, it's better than Stormspark, which is kind of a horrible blast to have against an aggro deck when you don't have a board to capitalize off of it. Arbiter, even if you don't have anything else, it's still going to, like, possibly save you an attack and be a body. The worst case, it's a 2500 body, so it's much more consistently good than Stormspark, even if it might not be quite as powerful.
And I think a lot of the notable things about Arbiter, too, he is an Enforcer, which is super relevant for the only race-based evolution in the game that still matters in standard format, that being BBP, Blind Beetle Prime, which is a huge swing card in and of itself, but Arbiter just being able to be a creature, like, so far what we've noticed the entire trend of Season 4 of KMCs is that if your opponent, you're always playing to, if your opponent has Arbiter and shields, they're probably going to win the game. Like, you just sort of have to bank. It's very hard to set yourself up to not lose from an Arbiter being shield blasted on you.
Like, every time you ask yourself what the worst case scenario is, you have to ask yourself, can I get blown out by either a Prime from their hand or an Arbiter from their shields? Because those are things that pretty much every deck is going to be running, and that you have to be prepared for. You can't just put yourself in a position to get blown out by either one of those. So every time you swing in at shields, that's like the number 1 shield blast that you have to take into consideration. Generally, if you can survive an Arbiter in their shields, you can survive anything in their shields.
Yeah, very much so. And especially with like as many hexproof things as there are, Arbiter, I don't know where I was really going with that.
Well, but it doesn't do anything to those.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's so much hex-proof guys that, like, a lot of shield blasts, like Terror Pit, Piercing, cards that aren't going to give you any other value on board, like an Arbiter will, like, are just kind of bad. So, but Arbiter being able to provide that body as well as a shield blast against other things.
Not only do you have to worry about, even in like strictly offensive things, if you have a board of hexproof guys, you could still lose a game if you just break an Arbiter. It doesn't do anything for them, but then it just attacks you for a game. Like, you can't just put yourself in a position to like, oh, if they get double shield blast creature, they're just going to win.
Yeah, it's like, I can break 2 shields this turn and then finish them off next turn. No, you got to go for game and hope there's not an Arbiter, because if you break any one of those shields, drop an Arbiter, there's a million and one things they can do to clear your board out and revenge kill you. So
much more utility than any other shield blast creature in the game. So definitely 100%. On our list.
Yeah, man, coming in at 10. So how can they get better?
Oh my God!
Number 9, Regent Sasha. Super powerful, one of the biggest hype cards to come out of Gauntlet, and still is one of the most, I guess, relevant finishers in the game as it stands.
Oh yeah.
You think about big bombs that, I mean, this.
It's so versatile. I think people have arguments for like, You have things like Haven, but I think Regent Sasha was the least interactive card in the game.
That's where I was going to
ever.
go. Yeah,
Which is weird because it attacks. Like, it comes in and it always attacks when you play it. So, like, how can it be so, how not as interactive? But it just is.
We were just talking about Hexproof. This takes Hexproof to the max. It says, I might be Hexproof, but now there's literally, you can't attack me, I cannot leave.
It's not even Hexproof. You can bounce it, but that doesn't help you because it's an evolution. It's just going to come back.
No, you can't bounce it. It can't leave the field when it unleashes.
True. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the only
can't
thing
do
you
anything.
can do...
I haven't played Kaijudo in like a month. Just saying.
The only thing you can do to Regent Sasha when it comes down, when it unleashes, and when it inevitably breaks 3 shields, because it's just going to do that.
Well, you can target, you can't...
Right. PPR can stop it. Yeah. Predator, Psychic Predator Resolve is the only card that can do anything. Right.
Things like that.
The only cards that can stop this guy. Otherwise, Regent Sasha's coming in, and it's literally not leaving the board the turn it comes down. It's not going anywhere. The card will not, this is definitive, there's no ifs and there's no way around it, is not leaving the board.
For a turn, which is usually enough.
Right. And I think that's what makes it so powerful. It's the only card that does that. It's the only card that gives you that definitive body that's not going anywhere.
It doesn't move, it just turns sideways, that's it.
Yep.
Also, against an aggro deck, it's not just a game ender, it'll be an Andromeda.
Yeah.
It's not quite Andromeda, but it basically has the All-Strike effect where even if you have no cards in hand, every deck is basically creatures. At the time when Sasha's, ever since it released to the time of now, it's like all the decks are creatures, so if they break a shield, it's a creature, they can't break the next shield. They break another shield, it's a creature, they can't break the next shield. Like, you can just discard and negate things, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's versatility, it's anti-aggro, anti-control, it just kind of gets in there.
And it's
Again,
gigantic.
and once again, on another very relevant civilization, Light, again, being super powerful as it stands, standard open, either or, Sasha is causing problems and being a card, and it's bigger than Andromeda and stuff like that, even in the open format, so it's going to be an issue, no matter what format you play it in.
Yep. And, coming in at number 8, we have the original Arbiter, except not really, because they're very different cards, but Stormspark Blast.
Yes.
So it's better and worse than Arbiter. I guess it really depends on what's seeing play. I think for right now, Arbiter is better because there are so many aggro-based decks, but back in Open, because when Stormspark was around, we had a ton of control decks. So that's why we can just look at a format like that and say Stormspark was completely busted, and it kind of was for the decks. There's so many control decks, the pile, all these different things, and Hexproof was still seeing play because a lot of Havens and Keeper Laws, so Stormspark really filled a space in the meta that no other card could have.
Yeah, and I mean even now in Standard, if we had a card like Stormspark Blast, cards that are running it, the little guys like Tricky Turnip and Keeper of Laws, cards that now you can just put on the board, and they're not going to be touched unless you set yourself up in a situation where Laws could lose to something random by itself. But if you have a Tricky Turnip and a Laws on board, those cards aren't going anywhere until you turn them sideways. There's no way to really interact with those guys at all right now.
Yeah, I'm always in a weird headspace with Stormspark because I recognize that it's probably too good as it is. It could have been a 7 cost, but I also think it's one of the more skillful cards they released with such a powerful effect. Yeah. But I also think that this meta that we're in right now with Standard would have been infinitely better if we had Tendril Grasp and Stormspark Blast. Yes. Those are the 2 cards that are probably too good, but also I think completely necessary.
Yeah, completely balance out all these other nutso cards that Tricky Turnip just allows you so much setup with all the powerful green evos now, Anjak, Rule Core, Boulder Fist, that you just put him down there, plop him down, and he just kind of sits there until you evolve on him. There's really not much that's going to happen. Very Incineration's on turn 8, and that's a million turns away from the turn 3 Tricky Turnip.
For how much these decks attack nowadays, they're very uninteractive.
Yeah.
You're basically just playing your own game and praying you don't hit a blast.
Yep.
Or praying they don't have an answer to your evolution, even if you don't attack.
Right, speaking of Hexproof, Keeper Laws coming in at number 7.
The clutch number 7.
Yeah, it's my preview card from Clash of the Duel Masters.
Yeah, we didn't think it was going to be that good, though.
We didn't. We'll try to do you justice now, buddy. Sorry about that.
Well, we had the same point Wizards had, was it was going to be good against control decks, but not much else. But then it was just Hexproof.
Yeah, the Hexproof is really what outdid this guy. Spell Siphon's super cool, where it just, it sort of shut down all these control decks, which is why, originally when it came out, if you go back to way back when I did the preview for this guy talking about this Spell Siphon thing, that's why we thought it was going to be good against control, and it was for that reason. Yeah. Cards like Mesmerize, all the spells that people were running, Crystal Memory, all the setups.
There were no Shield Blast creatures back then, so any blast you hit is going to draw your card.
Terrapit, Bone Blades, this card forced your opponent to Like, if you drop walls on turn 4 just by itself, you've kind of forced your opponent to waste a Bone Blades on it and draw you a card. It was like a -1 for them almost.
It was
But
my least favorite card.
But yeah, it kept you ahead, which was super good because these control decks were just running rampant, and it gave you sort of an answer to it and let aggro and tempo and stuff do things that it couldn't have normally have done. But then we realized, okay, not only is it good against control, now it's hexproof against the cards like Piercing Judgment and Rusaka and all these other tempo-based, all these other tempo-based cards that were just getting in the face once we realized that deck was a thing with the Hive Queen decks, with the Bant tempos and all that. Laws all of a sudden just started seeing circulation because, again, light played a huge role. Look at the past 3 cards and this one now, the number 10, 9, 8, and now 7, all light cards. Light is playing a huge role in open and standard, so this guy just fits in super nice. And again, it provides that Evo bait for Sasha, for, that's pretty much it, for Sasha. So.
Yeah, but whatever.
But yeah, it was a big deal, and it played a huge role, and it's a huge linchpin in a lot of these decks that run light.
And I remember, like, a lot of good players, like, it tried to be phased out, like, a lot of times, because people just started running a lot of creatures. Spencer's like, I don't think Laws is good anymore, but I was like, you should probably run Laws. Yeah. He's like, I'm never going to doubt it again. You can't doubt it.
Yeah, look at Dragons. When Dragons started to get big, and Herald started to be more of an issue than it was, because I gotta give shout-outs to Jerry T for introducing jump jets to us all. Started introducing it with jump jets. All of a sudden, this little Hexproof 3500 was kind of a bad thing to put on board, just because your opponent could find ways around it with Piercing Judgment just to tap it. They'll take the -1 to drop an Andro on board. Like, it didn't matter. So, like, Laws sort of started to see that phase out because players were like, let me tend away from this 3500. And even in the Light Nature decks, when Gauntlet first came out, people started to tend away from that because it was just, let me just put in the big guys. 4 for 3500 is too slow. But again, we're full circling, like CVH just said.
People realized, hey, I'm losing to Arbiter. Gotta jam like 5 or 6 hexproof guys. People realized, hey, Dragons loses to control. People are running control again. Gotta put in the Laws and Finbars. Mm-hmm. So that's just what happens.
Yeah. Just plays too big of a role, and it's got too good of an extra effect as well as being hexproof. So good stuff coming in at number 7.
And for number 6, breaking the light that's going on here with
it's very bright in here.
Herald of Infernus. So this card was like the main reason Dragons were insane. I mean, they would have been insane if just the DSI existed for like a lot of reasons, but after that, like when people started actually being able to run tempo and aggro, they might have been able to have, sort of fallen back down to a normal level of what's good, except you could just either Herald Jump Jets or Herald Hyperspeed, or just Herald and sit there for a turn.
Yeah.
And then here comes Andro or Infernus or something nuts that just ends the game.
Yeah. Too many turns further ahead. Like, the fact that you could... Like, the setup was super heavy, just to give you, an instance of the progressions that Dragons would normally see. Turn 2 Lux, turn 3 Nyx, turn 4
Herald Jump Jets.
Summon Herald with Jump Jets. Say you attacked with something, I don't know,
you're an aggro turn up.
Yeah,
Good for you.
You swung in with something.
You broke a shield.
Yeah, so Lux, Nyx, makes your Herald cost 2 less. Now on turn 4, you have 4 mana. You still have 3 cards in hand because that's the way things work. You summon Herald, draw yourself an extra card, tap the 1 more mana for Jump Jets. You have 1 card left in your hand. If that is an Andromeda, an Infernus, any other giant dragon,
it doesn't even
it's
matter.
also coming down on that turn. And now all of a sudden, whatever, it doesn't matter what deck they were playing, that deck is so far behind. You've dropped a turn 9, turn whatever creature way too far ahead of its progression, and things are just way too overwhelming. The best answer you have at that point is like Bone Blades to get rid of a bird.
Thank God.
Or a Rusaka to bounce something back, but you would have to bounce back the Herald, otherwise the Herald's going to attack and drop the big one again. It was just, it's so busted for its time.
Mm-hmm. So. And God help, the Nyx is probably one of the best cards in the game, too.
Yeah.
So that was a support card that shouldn't have been released. But
Dragon's getting way too many good support cards, Lux and Nyx, and then to be able to protect the Herald and draw cards on turn 4 with Herald to just keep the progression just streaming along. Because when you drop that other dragon off Herald, you draw another card off Nyx. So you still have a hand, you have 2 big fatties, including Herald, other X-Dragon, and then Nyx, Lux. I mean, it was just too good.
It's something
really
that
on turn 4.
Dragons kind of needed it to be able to not lose to aggro decks, especially after Bottle was banned, but still, like, a little too good. It kind of punished you for ever leaving anything tapped for any reason.
Yeah.
And, like, it even punished you for putting anything on board that wasn't 5,000 power. Like, if you're running Esper Tempo, you can't play anything that's not Lost Patrol, or they're gonna tap it and they're gonna summon something crazy and you just can't do it.
Yeah, Sword Horn was your best answer, but then even then, like on turn 4, if you didn't have Herald, you could just summon Lyra on turn 4.
Yeah, whatever.
Like, I mean, the Dragon decks just had so many answers, and Herald just being super pivotal in any of those progressions against anything aggressive, even anything not aggressive. You just drop Herald, and now your opponent has to deal with that before they set up anything on board.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's going to set the Dragon deck way too far ahead. So, number 5, to follow up with that Herald, I just mentioned her, Lyra, the Blazing Sun.
In the same vein of dragons.
Yes, dragons continuing to make waves in our top 10 list. Lyra, just what a big deal this card was. Yeah, I mean, you really don't appreciate something until it's gone. Lyra being just, it was super solid. Like, you look at your vanillas, like a 6 for 6,000 double breaker, like, that's value. Like, that's value in a card right there. You get, for your cost, you get the same amount of power. Like, the curve is perfect. It's
kind
a
of
double
terribly
breaker.
constructed, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but the model's there, 6 for 6,000 double breaker, makes sense. Now let's add an effect. And not only an effect, a busted effect.
Yeah. We could just make it tap a guy, but we already have those cards,
Right.
and they're not good. So.
Let's make it tap something and keep it tapped until the start of their next turn. So...
So for Magic players, it's basically Tameo the Moon Sage, and it has a million combos in this game because of all the battle effects like Herald. So you can tap things, kill them with Herald, or you can just tap things and leave them tapped, and then you just gain so much momentum it doesn't even matter. The amount of Lyra on Lyra battles that like occur, like, oh Lyra, your guy, well Lyra, you're Lyra, well Lyra, you're Lyra, and we're just basically playing the same deck because it's like the best 6-drop.
Yeah.
Every 6-drop ever had to be compared to Lyra, and Finbar to an extent, but like those two cards, like there was really nothing that came close on turn 6.
Alright, just absolutely ridiculous. And again, going back to everything we just spewed out about Herald with all the support cards, Lux Nyx into Lyra on turn 4 was just so heavy. A 6 for 6 on turn 4 that locked something your opponent was doing on their turn. I mean, even in like against other tempo decks like Swordhorn, cards that were normally seen to sort of be anti-dragon because it was just bigger than Herald.
Swordhorn's good on 3, but Lyra's better on 4.
Yes, 100%. And then it kills it the next turn. There's nothing they can really do with it. Your opponent can't evo on the cards you tap now, so like if you think you tap something and now I can just evolve it and keep it safe, no,
you can evolve it.
You can evolve it, but it's staying tapped. It's not really doing much for you. It's just a really good card and a really good effect, and I think that's the reason we only saw it on that one card and we never saw that effect again in the game, outside of like the one spell that does it, just because it's so
Radiant Purification, I think, that card costs like 10 or
know.
something crazy.
Yeah, there's a card that taps something and keeps it tapped. Actually Cassiopeia. But
Cassiopeia, and that might be a spell too. Yeah, there's a spell. Blade Barrier. Blade Barrier is actually pretty sweet. But
yeah, but Lyra just super powerful with all the support that came out with it. It just made it super good in Dragons and then just really good in everything else. All the control decks, it was just a card that just bought you time until you got to your bombs, like Haven, Andromeda, and all your other big guys. So, really, really good.
So now we're getting into the realm of cards that should not have been printed. Not that this list hasn't, like, there's an argument for all these cards, but the top 4, this is like the top 4. In the words of Robert Hebert, this card is oppressive. Blinder Beetle Prime.
Yes.
It's very oppressive.
No card has been as good as this card has been since it came out up until still now.
It's still good. It's not only still good, it's still great.
I mean, think about like when Gauntlet came out, all the Evos that Gauntlet rotated out. Cards like Sabretooth, Neuron, I mean, granted that wasn't seen much play anymore, Hydra Medusa, Dendrite, just all the race-based evolutions that just kind of got phased out because all of a sudden we can now just put them on whatever color matches. And
I don't have to read anymore. I just have to be able to see colors.
And a lot of them are bigger. A lot of them were a lot better than their predecessors.
Yeah.
This is the only one that's stuck around because of that effect. Come down.
And board wipe.
Yeah. Win the game. Board wipe. We don't have... With Stormspark being rotated out now, just talking standard alone, with Stormspark being rotated out... pretty much just with that, and I mean it's really hard with Arbiter because it costs just that much more. But Blinder Beetle is the only card that can come down and actually clear out bait before your opponent can essentially do the same thing to you.
And it's better than Stormspark because you're also like getting a 6,000 power body. Like your field is unimpressive, and all of a sudden you have a 6,000. I just need one other thing that's bigger than one of their things.
Yep.
And for them to not have Tricky Turnip, which is the only reason Turnip is so good, is because of Prime. Like otherwise, it's just okay. It's still 3 for 3. People joke that it was a vanilla for a long time before Anjac came along. It just didn't really do anything. But now you need something that sits there to evolve because every game is defined on evolutions. and every game is defined with Blind Beetle Prime. You
Yeah.
have to be able to not lose to board to Prime.
Yeah, if you don't lose to Prime, if you don't summon your Prime first, you're probably going to lose to theirs. Like, any deck that's
You just
running
can't
that
play
lineup-
anything besides that. Or you can, I guess there's times when you have to overcommit and just well, I win if they don't have Prime, but if they have Prime, it's just, those are the risks you have to unfortunately take.
And again, we go back to relevant bait, which makes cards like this so powerful. Kraken. Strider.
Magris
Swordhorn.
for the aggro decks.
Yeah, Magris.
Shieldwing.
Shieldwing.
Targusher.
Oh my god, there's
Stingwing.
just...
Did you say that?
No.
Okay.
There's just so...
Regular Blinder Beetle.
Oh my god.
Canyon Skimmer.
Canyon Skimmer, who knew?
Homunculon.
Just so many relevant enforcers for all of these Civ combinations.
Literally all the best white guys.
Right, that can run this card. It just keeps it super relevant. No other race has been so well supported and so relevant since it came out to support this guy. And that's what makes him so good. He's got the bait to back him, and his effect is just aggressive hand motions. Literally, just so good. Bam, 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 bam. Haven't seen that in a while, have you?
Card is straight fire, guys. Straight fire.
Your head's on fire.
Can I turn that off?
Yeah. You
Okay.
can press it again.
Didn't know if it just
God,
stayed
we're
there.
playing with special effects. You have no idea what he's doing.
Trying to make this look professional with the fake fire coming out of my head.
Oh, man. But yes, such a powerful card. And again, the word you used in the very beginning to define it, oppressive. It's just either you have Prime or your opponent has Prime. Whoever has Prime first is probably going to win. It's just the name of the game. Because if they have Prime first, you're using your Prime to get rid of their Prime, and now your opponent's still ahead because they're a turn ahead of you.
I think I said at the beginning of this meta, if a deck isn't running 3 primes right now, I don't think it's real. That was post champs, but pre everyone running the Light Nature deck. Because that deck can sort of get away with not running 3, but
Yeah.
you still have to play around it.
And
that's
again,
the only reason that deck's good is because it gets away with not
and
playing
the
Prime.
only reason that card gets away without playing Prime is because it has the one card that answers Prime, and that's Anjak. Turn up Anjak.
Yep.
Yeah, because that's literally the only way to beat a Prime. Otherwise, your deck has to run Prime to combat all the other Primes.
Junk cannot run it. Junk can get away with that because they can do turn up Anjak, but they still run Prime because they have Slayers, and it's just so good. It's so good. If you can support Prime, you just play it. If the minimum deck count was 45 instead of 40, Light Nature would just be running 3 primes too.
Yep.
It's just not in the top 40 cards they want to run, but it's definitely up there. They'd play it.
The card is just way too good. So,
we've talked about one oppressive card.
Yes.
Let's introduce the next
coming in
one.
at number 3. The only card to see the ban list in Kaijudo, Bottle of Wishes.
It was retired, but it came out of retirement for the one
It did
event
come out of
open.
retired for open, yes. And
Really hoping I'm
wow,
making top 8 in the
this
main
card.
event, so I'll have to play in the open.
anyone who played Kaijudo, and probably anybody who is now getting into it, can look up Bottle of Wishes and find infinite stories of people and
Whole articles.
Yes, and they're just raging anger
Why don't
against
you
what
tell
this
us
card has done to them.
Your story. Carl went 4-2 in the first championship, which is
did.
1 win away and actually 1 place away from top 8
Yes,
in
I
the first ever
finished ninth
championship.
place at the first champs.
Tell us about, because everyone loses once in tournament. It's going to happen. Tell us about the other loss.
I gotta give a shout out to Ricky Griss. This is who this story's about. Ricky Griss and I meet in round 2 of the Kaijudo Championship, the first ever championship. Meet in round 2. We're having fun. I think we're 1-1 on the season. In the first tournament I met him, he wound up beating me. I wound up beating him in PA to get my invite. And they were good games. Me and Ricky knew each other. We're good friends at this point. So we sit down, we play. I'm running Mono Light, same deck.
The aggro deck,
yeah, the one that you
The one I
actually
got third.
finished third with.
Because this didn't happen to me.
Yes, but I sit across from Ricky Gross. We're having fun chats or whatever. Turn 1, summon Magris. I get to go first. Awesome. Aggro deck. Great. Going first. Perfect. Summon Magris on turn 1. He draws a card, plays mana, passes off to me.
Because what is it going to do on turn 1?
Right, so, draw my card, summon a turn 2, whatever the hell. Attack into his first shield. Bottle of Wishes. If you guys are looking at this card right now, it has a Shield Blast effect. It pretty much says, my opponent shuffles his deck, Ricky Gross did exactly what Christian's doing right now, handed it off to me, I cut his deck, he reveals the top card off of it, and what do you know? It's Andromeda of the Citadel.
You didn't scoop instantly.
No,
but
I didn't.
You didn't win.
No, we go 3 turns in. Ricky apologizes because he knows it's just super butt that had to happen. It's whatever. It's bottle. It's variance. Variance. That's the word we'll talk about in a minute.
Variance is good. But seriously, it is good.
Yeah.
But this is too much.
So we go in 2 or 3 turns. I realize that he's got 6 shields and Andromeda that's literally killing everything I can summon. I can only summon one thing a turn. There's no way I'm going to get ahead. The game's over. Shuffle up, go to game 2. I get to go first again. Same situation. Open up with my hand of 5 cards, summon a Magus on turn 1.
Just open that well.
Pass off to my opponent on turn 2. Ricky Ghost draws, plays mana, passes off to me again. I draw a card, summon my turn 2 creature, attack with the Magus into his first shield. What do you know? I hit another one of these. Same situation happens, shuffles up, offers his deck, I cut it, reveals yet again Andromeda of the Citadel.
Ricky Gross isn't
Now
a cheater.
I'm 1-1.
But if he was a cheater, that would be the card you want to stack to the top.
Yes. It was impossible to get over. And to think of, like, that's just my story of Bottle of Wishes. So many times throughout the season, so many times just in casual games, in whatever. Yeah.
I was playing against another Monolith deck in the top 2 of an ARG KMC the next season. And yeah. I won my first game. Not both games. I wasn't as good as Ricky, but my first game was just like...
That's on stream.
Yeah. Everyone was
watch that.
So, like, on turn 2, he summoned a guy, and he attacked the next turn into my first shield, which was Bottle into Eternal Haven.
It was,
Richard Zapp.
Richard Zapp, yeah, poor Zapp.
He got a fight, too.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. But, anyways, I mean, it's just,
do what you gotta do.
So, like, all of a sudden, Bottle of Wishes takes what is essentially, like, I think of ourselves as skilled players. I think of our opponents as skilled players. Like, Ricky Gross, good player. Richard Zapp, good player. Me and you, good players. Like, we're sitting across from good players. We're playing a good game. All of a sudden, Bottle of Wishes just says, hey, I know you guys are playing this great game. Here's something ridiculous. Good luck.
Like, you could put the best minds of the world in a match of, like, see who can flip the coin and land heads the most.
It's like,
it's not going to become skilled just because 2 skilled players are doing it. You're still flipping coins.
Yeah, it's literally, it takes the skill out. It adds this incredible variance that we're already playing with.
See, I like variance.
Yeah.
The problem with Bottle isn't the effect. They could have put the effect on, like, a 5-cost normal spell, and, like, some decks would run it, but the more non-greedy ones and the smarter ones probably wouldn't. The reason Bottle's variance is bad is because it's a level of variance intertwined with another level of variance in the shields, because shields are already the unfair mechanic they implemented on purpose to deal with, like, the skill gap. Like, even if you're worse than your opponent, you could still steal games with your shields.
And that's why you have blasts that are, like, cost a bunch, because Terrapit costs 7 for a reason. There's a card that isn't Terrapit that costs less without Shield Blast. It costs more because of that variance.
Yeah, it's good from your hand, but it's not going to be variance. Bottle is variance in variance, and it's powerful variance, too, because it can either get out something dumb or, like, something nuts. And if it's in your shields, you don't care if it gets out something dumb. But obviously it's better if it gets out something nuts. And the fact that you can get a 10 cost on turn 2 is just something that should not actually be possible. It shouldn't just be, oh, well, it only happens this much of the time. Well, that's still way too much of the time. Like, there's other ways you can make it variant. You should have said, like, level 5 or less, or level 8 or less or something if it's a shield blast. It's too good.
Because Ricky could have definitely won his game whether or not that bottle had happened or not. But because that bottle happened, and because it summoned an Andromeda, all of a sudden my game's over. I don't get to play this game anymore, and I just kind of get to watch him do his thing now because he just has a card on board that he shouldn't have on board. And it's just...
Like, Herald is oppressive, but it takes setup.
Yes.
It probably shouldn't have been printed the way it is either, but it does take more setup. It's more of a fair card.
And again, you can play around it too. Mm-hmm. Like, you can just not turn your stuff sideways until it's appropriate to do so.
Unfortunately, playing around Herald because of the cards that got introduced, like Piercing, is sort of just not playing creatures, so I'm not a fan of that card either, but they're both, like, way too good.
What are you going to do? Anyways, Bottle Wishes, the reason it got banned is because of stories like that and because of all those situations, and it just took the fun out of the game. It just forced players to stop playing the games when you could be playing them.
So here's a card I complain about a lot. Number 2.
Yeah. Coming in at number 2, our second water card.
Mm-hmm. Is it actually only the second? Okay, so we got 2 water cards in a row. General Finbar.
Woo! Yeah. Love this guy. Should have found him sooner.
Yeah, we all played Tritonus for like a month. That card is trashy. It was released the same time as Finbar, and Tritonus is like, I'll pass my turn. I'm sure I played a big guy, but unless I already have a dominating board state, it doesn't matter. And, like, you're probably not going to have a dominating board state if anyone in the room is running tempo. It's just Finbar. It's just a time walk, like Rusalk Aqua Chaser, which almost made the list. It's a time walk, and then you just draw like 2 or 3 cards, which is nuts for free.
And in a lot of these tempo-based decks that started to see evolution through the end of Season 1 and beginning into Season 2 when they started getting much more popular, you were running this card alongside of very powerful cards like Swordhorn, Finbar, Aqua Seneschal, cards that were already getting you value out of turning sideways and being aggressive, but keeping your opponent at bay while you're being aggressive and keeping that momentum going in your hand. All of a sudden, Finbar is just like the nail in the coffin on top of all that. So I summoned Seneschal on turn 3. I summoned Rusalka on turn 4, attacked with Seneschal, drew a card.
They're already behind a whole turn because you Rusalka'd their whole turn away.
Right. Turn 5 allows cards for like Homunculon, which was the main one, I guess, at the time.
You could, if you didn't play
drops.
Seneschal, you played something else instead, you could have primed that turn.
Yeah, you play Prime, you play Homunculon. Either way, you're still tapping stuff, making Seneschal bigger, killing something, drawing another card. Rusalka's still on board, so you're breaking shields. So you're like 2 shields deep. You still have a hand of like 2 or 3, as well as 3 cards on board, and your opponent's sitting with nothing on turn 5. And then turn 6, they summon Herald in hopes of living. Finbar comes down.
You better have the
back.
jump jets, because
Yeah,
that's not living a turn.
Right, Herald comes down, bounces it back. Now everything's drawing you cards. Seneschal's drawing you 2. Rusalka and Homunculon are breaking the last shields. There has to be a blast in there somewhere, otherwise all the shields are gone.
You have top bottle, Andromeda, whatever.
Right, you have a hand of like 5 or 6. And now, even if your opponent does have Herald jump jets, it's still, like, you're so far ahead, you can just Finbar back the Andro they dropped, break their 2 shields again, you're forcing them to do the same plays over and over again until your board is just so oppressive that the game is over.
Finbar is really not a fun card, you guys. We needed it because they released Andromeda, but besides that, like, if none of them ever were created, it'd probably be the same game. We would have had tempo and control, they just wouldn't have had cards that ended the game, and/or just made you up. You played this. Yeah. Good for you, little Johnny. You played your little giant that looks sweet and has a Kurgar effect. It's not gonna live at all.
And you think about the civs that made like major waves in this meta. Like most of the control decks were based around water. A lot of them were running Tritonus at the time. Piercing Judgment was a huge swing card for them, and then Finbar just adds the value to certain control builds. Like all of a sudden we realized, why don't we just throw Finbar in controls? Like we've already got these big fatties, might as well run Finbar, which also bounces a card, which is great. And now it gives value to my big guys who are killing their small dudes and drawing me cards. Why not? That's great.
Before Andromeda was rotated out, every deck I played ran Finbar. Like after I realized it was so good, every control deck I did ran it, every dragon deck I played ran it, every tempo deck I played ran it, every deck.
And that's what I was getting towards. Water played a huge role in all these decks.
Because, all ran light, obviously.
Yeah, because all the tempo decks run Rusalka, run probably Seneschal, Bottle of Wishes was still super powerful, and then you add Finbar to the list, which just adds value to all your dragons attacking. Sure, Nyx is drawing you cards, but now Finbar's coming down, they're drawing more cards when they swing. Same thing with the tempo decks. Like I said, those progressions that just could get so oppressive that you just couldn't do anything about them. Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm just getting you.
But yeah, water just super powerful in that respect for that time.
Yep.
And then a card who's seen mentioned in a lot of our talks, coming in at the big number 1.
It was close between that and Finbar.
Yes. Andromeda. What a powerful card. Since DSI came out again...
It made an entire set irrelevant when it was released.
Yes.
No one ran Evo period until, other things came out.
Yeah, because we talked about it with Herald. Like, the combos with Herald are pretty obvious. This guy coming down on turn 5 or 6, nuts.
But sure, Rusalka Aqua Chase is good, but it's not holding it down for tempo without Finbar. So, when that card came out, tempo, none of these, mid-rangey Evo Summon Sabertooth decks could do anything.
Yeah. And then think
that
about...
Lyra.
Yeah, and then all the control decks that started to sprout up out of this. Excuse me. We had a ton of just super powerful cards that could just stall your opponent out. Lyra... we had cards that actually saw play back then, but started to see less play when Finbar became more and more relevant. But Dragon of Reflections, the water card, the one that would turn around Shield Blast for you. But you had a lot of intermediate cards that could stop the heavy progressions from the Saber Bolt decks at the time and the tempo decks. Lyra being a main part of that, but Piercing, Stormspark with bigger guys, and Slayers, and Mesmerize. Yeah, you had a bunch of control cards that could just stop your opponent from doing what they were doing until you got to turn 9 when you just dropped Andromeda after Andromeda.
Or even turn 8 or 7 or 6, perhaps.
Yeah.
If you're into that, which you were.
Yeah, with all the ramp decks too, we can't discount the 4-color ramp control decks that we started to see towards the end of I think that was season 1. Yeah, that with Matt Robinson and that whole DFT grew in SBK at the time, just running super hefty control decks.
That happened after Finbar was released. So people realized Finbar was good, and then all of a sudden that deck had a terrible matchup of everything that ran Finbar. So that happened. But before Finbar was released, and even after, the only reason Control could ever hope to keep up with Finbar was they had to streamline it, obviously, because they couldn't run 55 cards and expect to draw these cards, but they needed to run 3 Andromedas. Use Andromeda is the only reason. Yeah. And we know this because Andromeda left the meta, and then Control died.
Yeah.
It's literally not a deck.
Yeah, super, super incredible card, and defined an entire archetype. Like, just because of that. 2 shields, plus the ability to keep your opponent from attacking. It was super anti-tempo, and if your opponent didn't have a way to get rid of it, it was literally just going to stop everything they were doing. And shield blasts were still a thing, so, not only do I have to spin 2 guys into 1 shield, now I have to hope not to hit a shield blast, because that's just going to throw everything out of whack. So, super powerful and huge, too. Not to mention the fact that the power was just super overwhelming. But
if anyone thinks that Light Dark deck is control, I'm pretty sure it's mid-range. It just runs Serpents to not die to aggro. It also runs things that can just get in there. You have to run big threats this game, so everything's a big threat. Everything's cheaper than Andromeda. Andromeda's gone, therefore control's dead.
So, in review, looking at our top 10 list here.
7 light cards?
7 light, 2 water, 1 fire.
0 nature, darkness.
Yeah,
I like a lot of those cards too.
A lot of notable mention, or I guess a lot of notable
Piercing
mentions.
Judgment comes in at 11 for me.
Yeah, Piercing Judgment. We can't discount Rusalka the Aqua
That's
Chaser.
number 12, yeah.
Cards like Underworld Stalker, Targusher, very big
right.
support cards that played huge roles in their archetypes as well. Reverberate, which was a huge swing card for its time. I'm just trying to think of other powerful cards too.
You like Seneschal. Terrapin's just a card that's seen 3 times.
1 for 1. It's just very
It's
powerful.
the one.
Very consistent.
Boneblade's actually is probably... Boneblade's is definitely better than Terrapin.
Yeah.
It sucks to say Boneblade's is definitely better than Terrapin. So much better.
Yeah. Other Broodmother, very powerful card.
And Jack is probably getting up there.
Yep. So, I mean, lots and lots of powerful cards. I mentioned Hive Queen before we started this, just because it defined its entire archetype and created Bant, if you will, pretty much.
I'd run Bant without Hive Queen long before I ran Bant without Finbar.
Oh, definitely. Now it stands, but I'm just talking about the card that really set the deck type up was the Hive Queen, and then all the variations came out of that.
Yep.
Just good stuff.
So
but that's our top 10
so
list.
good? Is it because this game is basically Magic, and except we have like Shield Blasts and blockers, and they gave Light the best of both of those?
Yeah.
They're like, let's do things that are unique to Kaijudo, but only one Civ is going to inherently benefit, because Light has the best of tap, which tap doesn't matter as much as Magic because you can't attack creatures. This game you can.
It just seems like... Do you remember when TVR came out?
Yeah.
And we just had no light cards?
We're like, this civilization sucks, there's literally nothing playable.
And then Rise came out, and again we were like, oh cool, we got Keeper of Dawn. That's irrelevant.
Stormspark Blast.
Yeah.
You could splash for Stormspark.
Yeah, but irrelevant. Like, Light was just... There was no reason to really run Light engines.
And then Eva Fury came out, and we were like, it's irrelevant, just kidding, Cobalt exists.
Cobalt started to, towards the end of Eva Fury, and then DSI came out, and then Light just blew up. And ever since then, it's been great. So I think that's...
I've never, ever ran a deck that didn't use Light for any sort of KMC or championship, and I played more than like 20.
I think
20 events. Are you serious? Can I not run Light?
And in my entire KMC...
I'm so mad.
You farted.
No, I didn't.
I heard a fart.
That was the chair.
Oh, I heard a fart. Anyways, I think the only...
would just interrupt your train of thought to laugh at an imaginary fart.
Laugh at a fart, yeah. I think the only event in my entire KMC experience and competitive Kaijudo tournament scene, I think there was only one time where I didn't run Light, and that was one of the events where I didn't top. That was where I finished 10th because I gave Spencer the win because I already had my invite.
It was a sweet idea. It was like Fire, Nature, Water.
It was Fire, Nature, Water with count at 1 Finbar.
Yeah, aka this deck would have been much better if I ran a Light instead of Fire and ran 3 Finbars. Yep. And then you did that and won.
Yep, I did that and got my flight and PA.
1 Finbar. We were so dumb.
We figured it out though.
I was running 0 Finbars that day. I don't know what the fuck I was on.
But yeah. Good times. Hope you guys enjoyed this, our top 10s card list. If you have any suggestions for videos you'd like to see in the future of us doing this, I know Kaijudo is starting to wrap up now. Championships is in a little over a week from now, and I'll be getting a ton of coverage from there. We might have a dual series coming up here on the channel for Kaijudo. One more dual series before Champs comes up next week. Potentially, we'll see if we can get that to you or not, because I leave on Thursday. And
if not, then we'll just get it afterwards or something.
Yeah, we'll probably have one more dual series as well as all the Champs content, but that'll probably do it here for us on Kaijudo.
Are you doing coverage for Kaijudo Champs? Because I never got an email back, so...
I did not, but I will be trying to still get features there. I'll be talking to any of the tournament organizers there, as well as some of the WotC people while I'm there, and see if I can get any sort of setup on any sort of feature table for any sort of coverage while I'm there. So we'll give it a shot. And if you guys really want to see coverage, I implore you to go to the Kaijudo Dojo, the Facebook group. That link's down below. It always has been. As well as leave comments here on the channel, so I have some form of you guys saying that you want to see coverage from champs.
If you have Twitter,
on this
tweet
channel.
at Wizards Kaijudo. Wizards_Kaijudo.
Yep.
One of the two. Doesn't hurt to tweet to both.
Right.
And just figure out which one sticks and just be like, hey, you should really have Earth Power do some coverage. Post it on YouTube.
Because I'd love to get coverage from you guys. I'd love to put stuff on the channel.
It's
so
not
you
being
guys can
streamed in
see.
case you didn't know, so if you're not going to be there, which no one will really blame you, but you still want to see what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely do want to get coverage. I want to have our last championship be as awesome as possible and let you guys see what we're up to and get you guys some of the coverage of some of the top tables and some of the top matches, since it's the last time we'll be playing Kaijudo at a competitive level. Kaijudo in North America. So
yeah.
But yeah, Duel Series coming up. If you guys want to see any other top 10 lists or anything else neat like this, leave your comments and suggestions down below, and I will look at them and try to incorporate them here in the channel in the next couple of weeks, as we tend to wrap up all the Kaijudo content. And then we'll be moving towards Hearthstone and Pokemon as those things become more and more relevant and I find my way into the scene. You had mentioned this was your idea for a Duel Series for Hearthstone, in fact. Something we're going to try to give a shot here. Set up. We've got a bunch of computers here to make content with.
You know, I got the Kaijudo money.
Yeah, and screen record with. So what we would try to do is, you guys, for those of you who have played Hearthstone, you've got the player playing against the player on the other side.
They know how to screen record,
Right.
Carl.
We'll try to flip the screens over and have both screens of both players
It's
playing
literally
at the same time.
just the way they do it on a stream, except we'll be talking about our plays and explaining how we do things.
And you'll see the hands for both players, and CVH and I will both be here. We'll just be playing across from each other on computers and doing a Duel Series the way we normally do Duel Series, except Hearthstone. So we're going to try to give that a shot, and we'll keep you guys updated.
Sweet.
So I think that's it from us today. Hope you guys enjoyed, and check out the social links below: Facebook, Twitter, all that fun stuff. Let us know what you think, and hopefully, guys, we'll see you next time
for another This Week in Kaijudo.
Maybe, I don't know.
Probably not. Right, Peach.
Anyways, we'll see you guys later. Peach.